You think cheap food has to taste cheap? Think again. American kitchens once turned pennies into meals so satisfying that families thrived on a fraction of today's grocery costs. Here are 60 cheap vintage recipes that can cut your grocery bill in half. Let's start the video with a classic, the Johnny Marzetti casserole. If you grew up in Ohio, I'm sure you've had this beef and macaroni casserole. Now, this casserole was named after a real person. Johnny Marzetti was named after the brother of Teresa Marzetti, an Italian immigrant who opened a restaurant in Columbus, Ohio in 1896. This dish was the restaurant's most popular offering and soon became the talk of the town. In the 1950s and 1960s, Johnny Marzetti was a common item on school lunch menus in the Midwest. That's because of its kid-friendly ingredients. The best part about this one was that it could be made in advance and baked just in time for dinner, which means you didn't have to visit Grandma for this one every time. The key to a good Johnny Marzetti was the cheese blend. It was typically made with a combination of cheddar, provolone, and Parmesan cheese. Let's start strong with everyone's favorite oatmeal raisin cookies. These biscuits have been around since the early 20th century, and for good reason. Oatmeal raisin cookies have their roots in health-conscious recipes. The recipe was inspired by Scottish oatcakes, which were considered the ultimate healthy snack back in the day. Graham decided to add raisins to the recipe and turn it into a sweet treat loved by all. This cookie became so popular in the United States that the recipe started appearing on Quaker Oats packages, and everyone and their grandmas were whipping up this easy treat in the kitchen, literally. Now, if you're wondering why Grandma's oatmeal cookies tasted so much better, it might have been her secret ingredient, a pinch of cinnamon or nutmeg. Let's start the video with everyone's favorite peach cobbler. Whether made with fresh, juicy peaches at the height of summer or canned peaches during the off-season, this dessert never failed to bring warmth to the table. Grandmas have always been great at making those labor-intensive meals, but this one was a laid-back treat that they whipped up in minutes. Yeah, even you can make it. Just take a few peaches, toss them with sugar and spices, and top with dollops of biscuit dough. This one was served best with a side of vanilla ice cream. Some grandmas even added a splash of bourbon to make the cobbler extra special. Plus, this dessert became so popular that there is even a day dedicated to it. April 13th is National Peach Cobbler Day in the United States, so mark your calendars and call your grandmas for some childhood nostalgia. That vibe was tile fish with béarnaise sauce. Tile fish, known for its mild and slightly sweet flavor, was once a favorite among seafood lovers. These were typically found in the northeastern United States, including the Gulf of Maine, down to the southeastern United States, and extending to the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. Plus, pairing it with the rich, creamy béarnaise sauce, a tarragon-flavored spin on hollandaise, was like the cherry on top. But in the early 20th century, a natural disaster nearly wiped out the tilefish population. You know what that means? There was a sharp decline in its availability, and over time, the dish became more of a memory than a menu item. Today, you'd be hard-pressed to find it anywhere, even in high-end restaurants. Bummer.
So it's all done frying. I'm going to try my first piece.
So back in the early 20th century, let's start the video with a childhood favorite. I'm talking about Grandma's cornflake peanut butter cookies. Yeah, this one really was a staple in many Grandma's cookie jars. The crispy cornflakes were the best part of this sweet delight, and don't get me started on peanut butter filling. This cookie was the talk of the town in the 1950s. This recipe became popular due to its simplicity and the fact that it used ingredients many households had on hand. Wasn't Grandma the best at making use of whatever they could find in the kitchen and keeping our tummies full? The recipe was often passed down through generations, becoming a cherished part of family traditions. They were perfect for after-school snacks or family gatherings. Now, if you're ever feeling nostalgic, I've managed to track down this recipe. We'll need peanut butter, cornflakes, sugar, butter, and a few other simple ingredients. The best part? These cookies come together in a snap. Was the famous Amish 6-layer dinner. just like Kentucky Fried Chicken gets a lot of attention for those infamous 13 secret ingredients, this dish too only has 6 ingredients that make up all the magic. You have your onions, ground beef, carrots, tomatoes, and then a layer of seasoning and broth. You layer this up in a casserole dish, bake it until the vegetables are the definition of soft and tender, and enjoy the healthiest and tastiest casserole you've ever had. Simple does it, right? That advice has carried kings to their empires, and it'll carry you to a wonderful dinner if you take it. You don't need to pre-cook anything, as everything goes into one casserole. This dish gets the Amish association because, as you may have guessed, it got pretty popular in those communities and places with farming traditions. More people started adopting it when people had an interest in the many cuisines that different communities in America had, like the Amish and Midwestern traditions. The era where this dish got popular, the 1950s to 1970s, was a time marked by an increasing population and birth rate. People had larger families, and cheap, affordable ways to feed everyone were immediate hits with the masses. This is probably the best proof of how stress-free a crock pot can be. Next up, we have the Shipwreck Casserole. If you think this name's creative, keep watching, because some of these casserole names will leave you scratching your head. So, the Shipwreck Casserole was a go-to for families during tough economic times because it was simple, budget-friendly, and made with ingredients that were often already on hand. The name shipwreck referred to the hodgepodge of ingredients tossed together as if it were a shipwreck of a meal. Grandma's pantry was almost always stocked, but during the hard times, even she had to make do with whatever was available. This delicious casserole was versatile and typically consisted of ground beef, potatoes, onions, and canned tomatoes, with the occasional addition of baked beans or vegetables like carrots and green beans. You might remember these next ones due to their signature crisscross fork marks. Yeah, I'm talking about the peanut butter cookies. These were a dream come true for any peanut butter lover, and Graham was always extra generous with the nut spread. These cookies became popular in the 1900s, around the same time peanut butter was becoming a staple in American kitchens. The first peanut butter cookie recipe appeared in a 1916 publication called The Settlement Cookbook. And that crisscross fork pattern? It wasn't just for looks. The fork marks helped flatten the dough for even baking. Plus, did you know peanut butter cookies have been a favorite for so long that they even have their own holiday? National Peanut Butter Cookie Day is celebrated every June 12th, which gives everyone an excuse to enjoy Grandma's classic recipe. We've got all sorts of fancy pies nowadays, from chocolate hazelnut mousse to blackberry merlot, but Grandma's banana cream pie was the talk of the town in the 60s. Do you remember coming home to a chilly slice of this delicacy? This one was a guaranteed crowd pleaser, and that's why it was the star of the table during the holidays. Here's the thing. Bananas were very readily available in the US in the 1950s till 1960s, which means people had to come up with creative ways of eating them. And well, grandmas know best, especially when it comes to hearty desserts. The post-World War II era saw a boom in convenience foods and desserts that were easy to make at home, and banana cream pie fit perfectly into this trend. This wasn't just your favorite dessert. It was reportedly a favorite of President Harry S. Truman, who had a sweet tooth for simple, homey desserts. There was also a no-bake version of the banana cream pie, perfect for summer days when turning on the oven wasn't ideal. Broiled shad was a staple on American dinner tables, especially during the spring shad runs. Shad is a type of herring, and it was plentiful along the East Coast, making it an accessible and popular choice. It wasn't just a dish on our tables. It was a bonding experience for big families who'd gather for meals centered around this particular fish. Now, the best part about this fish is that it was considered flavorful enough not to require sauces, herbs, or spices. A filling of breadcrumbs was enough to add some crispiness. This fish could be boiled, filleted, fried in butter, or baked. Traditionally, a little vinegar was sprinkled over it on the plate. In the eastern United States, roe shads were prized because the eggs were considered a delicacy. These were typically broiled alongside the fish and added a savory flavor to the mix. Now, you can't really have... There's nothing quite like a slice of homemade blueberry pie. especially when it's made with Grandma's secret recipe. Yeah, Grandma's classic blueberry pie used to be the life of the party at Thanksgiving. But this dessert wasn't just a seasonal favorite for fall, it was also the star of summer dessert tables and a favorite way to showcase those juicy, plump blueberries. Grandma's version featured a flaky, buttery crust and a filling bursting with blueberries, making it like taking a bite of summer itself. This pie dates back to colonial America, where blueberries were abundant and used in a variety of dishes. The recipe we're talking about today was a hit in Grandma's kitchen, often made from scratch with fresh, local blueberries picked during the height of summer. It's no wonder this pie vanished from many tables. It's not easy to find blueberries at their peak of ripeness these days. When your cooking gets so simple that your dish gets called no-peak chicken because you literally don't need to even glance at it, you know you need to invest in one of these bad boys. This dish takes chicken breasts and works some real magic with them, but the real star of this show is the canned products. Canned mushrooms and soups are put into a dish with a broth, then covered with foil and baked. The rice absorbs all the liquid, and the chicken soaks in that lovely flavor. It gets really mushy in the process, and that means it's perfect for you to sink your teeth into after a long day. It got popular because it was one of those dump and bake recipes. It took nothing. You wouldn't work up a sweat making it, and everything you needed for it was available at your nearest convenience store. Casserole culture in general started skyrocketing from the 1950s to the 1980s, and this was one of the staples of that time. It's a win-win situation for everyone when your country's classics are made even easier and more accessible thanks to nifty new machines, and people definitely took as much advantage of that fact as they could. So, tamales are a labor of love, but thanks to Grandma, this tamale pie was a much easier way to enjoy the flavors. This casserole caught on like fire in the early 20th century, particularly in the Southwest, where Mexican influence was strong. Just like most casseroles on the list, this one-dish wonder was also a creation of the Depression era. Some versions of this pie started out as a way to use up leftovers, such as bits of meat, vegetables, and even leftover chili. But hey, no one complained because the end result was a delicious dinner. Many families have an heirloom recipe for this casserole passed down from generation to generation. So if this casserole brings back memories from your childhood, it might be time to give Grandma a call. She could be holding on to a secret recipe that she's finally ready to pass down to you. So Grandma's molasses cookies might have not been everyone's cup of tea, but for those who loved them, they're a nostalgic treat missed dearly. Molasses cookies are older than most of the cookies in your cookie jar. They have their origins in colonial America, where molasses was a common sweetener due to its affordability compared to sugar. Early settlers used molasses to make cookies, cakes, and bread, creating recipes passed down to generations. Graham decided to take things up a notch and often spice these cookies with a mix of ginger, cinnamon, and cloves. There were typically two types of molasses cookies back in the day: soft or crisp. Depending on how long they were baked, some grandmas preferred them soft and chewy, while others let them bake longer to become crispy and crunchy. Which ones did you prefer? Many great things have come out of Alaska, but nothing beats the baked Alaska Grandma would bring home on the weekends. If it doesn't ring a bell, let me jog up your memory really quickly. This dessert was made of ice cream placed in a pie dish, lined with slices of sponge cake or Christmas pudding, and topped with meringue. Now, don't let the name fool you. This delicacy didn't really originate in Alaska. Yeah, it was made at the famous Delmonico's restaurant in New York City. The dessert was supposedly named Alaska, Florida, in 1867 to celebrate the United States purchase of Alaska from Russia, with the cold ice cream representing Alaska and the warm, baked meringue representing the sunny state of Florida. This one is known for its dramatic presentation. It was brought to the table aflame with a flambe. Many grandmas love to make baked Alaska for special occasions because of its wow factor. Have a conversation about forgotten fish dishes without bringing up the infamous baked stuffed fish. The beauty of this dish was in its versatility. Yeah, you could use almost any fish, from cod to flounder, and the stuffing was often a mix of breadcrumbs, herbs, and sometimes a bit of seafood like shrimp or crab. Baking added a healthy twist to this dinner meal as it's far better than frying. Yeah, baking is a healthier alternative to frying, as it uses less oil and fat, and stuffing and baking fish help retain moisture and flavor while keeping the dish light and nutritious. So, this was a labor-intensive meal. And as Grandma's cooking started becoming less common, we started seeing it less and less on dinner tables until it finally disappeared.
That doesn't sound like a masterpiece at all, I know, but this is leftover cod.
If you grew up in a New England household or anywhere along the East Coast, chances are you've heard of... So Grandma's cookbook didn't only come in handy to satisfy the sweet tooth, her casseroles were to die for too, and the ground beef casserole was comfort food at its finest. Remember when this baked goodness was the ultimate weeknight meal? It combined ground beef with vegetables topped with a crispy layer of cheese or breadcrumbs, and if you begged enough, Granny used to go light with the carrots. This casserole was a go-to for busy weeknights and family gatherings alike. The origins of this dish can be traced back to the 1950s, when casseroles became a popular way to feed a crowd on a budget. Grandma's version was particularly beloved for its rich flavor and the way it brought the whole family together around the dinner table. Sadly, it's fallen out of favor, but it's never too late to give Grandma a call and ask her to share that secret recipe. We're going to continue the casserole show with Alpine chicken. This one got popular for more or less the same reasons the other two did. However, it had an extra kick that they didn't, and that was the addition of Swiss cheese. Americans will never get tired of a dish if it has a decent helping of cheese in it. So you shouldn't be too surprised that this is stuck in the minds of eaters and families like glue. Alpine chicken typically uses cream of mushroom soup and breadcrumbs or a stuffing mix layered in a dish that gets cooked until the cheese is melted. You also have your typical chicken breasts involved, but some people go for the thighs. It peaked in popularity during the post-war era when people really started looking for more ease in their cooking rather than sweating buckets after a day in the kitchen. You know how when you cook something, you rarely feel like eating it immediately? It's because cooking is a soul-sucking endeavor. It doesn't have to be, thanks to things like crock pots and recipes like Alpine chicken, which bring the fun back in food and make sure you actually get to rest and replenish that stamina tank. Plus, this was a dish that really got the crowd singing, and that's always one you want to keep on your roster. This dish actually got popular for exactly the reasons you would think. Yes, landing your man through a happy stomach is a good way to get married by fall season. While the southern states were enjoying Tex-Mex cuisine, the northern states were all about Italian flavors, and baked ziti was a staple on the dinner table. Now, even with its Italian roots, you wouldn't typically find this one in Italy. This casserole was created by grandmas who were Italian immigrants to the States and adapted traditional pasta dishes to suit the ingredients available in their new country. Baked ziti was pretty much the long-lost cousin of lasagna, with the classic version including ziti pasta, marinara sauce, ricotta, and mozzarella cheese. The ziti pasta used in the dish was tubular and smooth, which makes it ideal for holding onto the sauce and cheese. This one was a hit at Sunday dinners and had everyone coming back for seconds. Let's face it, Snickerdoodle cookies were always the first to disappear from Grandma's cookie jar. It was hard to keep your hands to yourself when these cinnamon-flavored treats were calling out your name from the kitchen counter. Ever wonder what gives Snickerdoodles their unique texture? Well, the cinnamon wasn't just used for flavor. Paired with the cream of tartar as a leavening agent, it makes the cookie stand out from the rest. These delicious treats were always the star of the dessert table during the holidays, and Grandma's secret trick to making them extra soft was chilling the dough before baking. These cookies became the talk of the town in the early 21st century, and even Monica from Friends couldn't help but rave about them. Remember Season 1, Episode 8? If not, it's time to binge and jog up your memory. Now, not all of us had a sweet tooth growing up, but you know grandmas, they had something for everyone. And lemon meringue pie was the dessert of our dreams. It wasn't too sugary, just the right balance of tart and sweet. The pie that we knew growing up was believed to have evolved from two earlier desserts, the lemon custard pie and meringue-topped desserts. The lemon meringue pie consisted of a shortened pastry base filled with lemon curd and topped with meringue. This dessert became all the rage during the Victorian era, which made it one of the luxury dessert options of the time. but you know how our grandmas loved spoiling us, and she was always ready to whip up labor-intensive meals as long as they brought a smile to our faces. Plus, this one was also one of the healthier desserts. Yeah, thanks to the lemon's vitamin C and the absence of heavy creams and custard. It doesn't really get better than this, does it? Codfish balls. These crispy balls were made from salted cod and mashed potatoes and were a common dish in American homes, especially during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Not only in homes, but it was the go-to snack at the beach and the one thing you could get at seafood shacks without spending any big bucks. They were often served with a simple white sauce or even ketchup, which made them a hit amongst both kids and adults. Plus, it was an ingenious way to use up preserved fish and stretch ingredients during lean times. Yeah, they really stuck with us through thick and thin. Codfish balls were a key part of the diet during the Great Depression due to their affordability and the accessibility of cod. Sadly, these bad boys have fallen out of flavor. There was a time when Scandinavian American communities would do anything for a taste. So, who here remembers the infamous egg yolk cookies? Now, this is a recipe that might surprise you. Egg yolk cookies were a delicate treat that was often overlooked, and Grandma's egg yolk cookies were legendary. They were so light and buttery, they practically melted in your mouth. But let's be honest, they weren't everyone's cup of tea, and the last ones left in Grandma's cookie tin. How these cookies came to life is a good story to tell. Legend has it that these were a result of a sweet accident when someone's granny decided to use up extra egg yolks that were left over from other recipes. This was especially true in times when home bakers were making a lot of custards or puddings. Grandma's egg yolk cookies had a unique flavor and a melt-in-your-mouth texture that set them apart from other cookies. Land your man, baked beans suddenly are a tried and tested method. I mean, you don't get a moniker like that for nothing, right? These typically get served as a topping for bratwurst or hot dogs, or served as a side for a main event that lies more on the barbecue side. The beans are made with ground beef, onions, and bell peppers, so they definitely are the perfect side to any kind of savory or tangy experience. One of the best sauces to use was Texas Pete sauce, but any kind of Tabasco works. If you have hardwood smoked bacon, though, that's definitely what cookbooks recommend, along with Taco Bell seasoning. As far as beans, any kind of canned beans work, but if you're looking for a specific recommendation that really encapsulates that mid-1900s flavor profile, then you should go for Bush's Original Baked Beans. Either way, you're in for a great time with these. Try making them for a special someone on a romantic evening, and maybe you might get lucky in other ways too. If you do hear wedding bells because of this dish, know you did a great job. Remember when Campbell's cream of mushroom soup and canned tuna were the stars of the food aisle back in the day? Well, Grandma took those humble ingredients and spun them into her classic tuna noodle casserole. During the 1950s and 1960s, convenience foods were all the rage, and tuna noodle casserole fit the bill perfectly. It was a post-World War II creation and was whipped up in no time with ingredients already on hand. Plus, it was a classic comfort food that brought everyone together at Graham's dinner table. During the mid-20th century, tuna noodle casserole was a mainstay in American cookbooks and cooking magazines. It was often featured in advertisements and was promoted as a quick and easy dish for the busy homemaker. This one fell out of flavor, but thanks to the recent revival of noodle dishes, we might see this one back on the menu soon. In the meantime, why not dust off Grandma's old cookbooks and bring it back yourself? Now let's put up some Christmas lights because next on the list we have a holiday classic: gingerbread cookies. These have been a holiday tradition in the United States for as long as one can remember, but did you know they date back to ancient Greece and Egypt, where ginger was used in various forms? These became popular in Europe when gingerbread houses became a tradition, and well, the rest is history. Decorating these cookies is still a tradition in many households in America, with grandmas bringing their own unique and special techniques for making icing and adding candy. Remember Gingy from Shrek, the spunky gingerbread man who stole the show with his quick wit and bravery? He was created after Grandma's delicious baked treats. Well, rice pudding is also one that wasn't just delicious, but also healthy. Don't you love it when sweet treats come with health benefits? Talk about a good deal. So, I'm sure I don't need to get into the nitty-gritty of this one because who doesn't remember the taste of rice pudding? It started out as a way to use up leftover rice and soon became the dessert that had everyone coming back for seconds. Not only this, but rice pudding was one of the easiest desserts to make and was made with ingredients easily found around the house like rice, milk, and sugar. Rice pudding originated in Europe and was brought to the States by European immigrants. Our grandmas decide to take the classic dessert up a notch by adding some key ingredients like vanilla, nutmeg, maple syrup, or cinnamon. Now, with the change in tastes and trends, this one never made it to big restaurants, but let's be honest, Grandma made it better than any Michelin star chef could possibly have. It's something about making sweet treats with a whole lot less sugar and a whole lot more love. Of pickled herring and wine sauce. It was just that good. I mean, just think about the combination of tangy, slightly sweet pickled herring and rich wine sauce. I don't know about you, but it sounds like the perfect festive dish to me and a well-deserved break from casseroles. The dish was brought to America by European immigrants and quickly became the talk of the town in the 1960s. However, this one didn't suit everyone's taste buds due to its unique texture of pickled herring. But hey, this one wasn't just a tasty treat, it gave you many benefits with each bite. Herring is a rich source of omega-3 fatty acids, which are beneficial for heart health, and the pickling process, while adding flavor, also helps preserve these nutrients, making it a nutritious choice. Speaking of strange cookies, who says cookies have to be sweet? Great-grandma's sour cream drop cookies were a delightful surprise. Now, I know sour cream is the last ingredient that comes to mind when you think of cookies, but this unusual addition made our childhoods 1,000 times more delicious. These cookies were a blend of soft and tangy thanks to the addition of sour cream. Sour cream was a popular ingredient in baking during the early 20th century, adding moisture and a slight tang to cookies and cakes. These must be one of the simplest forms of cookies. As all baking books will tell you, they are also known as drop cookies. They are so called as the cookie dough is so soft that it drops off the spoon and onto the baking sheet. This cookie was often enjoyed with powdered sugar or a glaze to trick kids into thinking they were in for something sweet. These sour cream cookies prove that sometimes the most surprising flavors can be found in the most unexpected places. Pork cassoulet was what you went for as far as everyday meals go if you wanted to work some pork into the weekly diet. Pork cassoulet featured pork shoulders, or sausages in particular, and some of the typical ingredients you're used to seeing with savory dishes. Tomatoes, onions, garlic, all your usual suspects. Except this time it uses white beans like Great Northern beans. The reason you ended a crock pot, particularly for this, is that it is a stew, and the pork needs to be browned. Now you can include breadcrumbs for a crunch on top, but it kind of messes with the stew-centric vibe, so people used to leave them out. As far as the flavor goes, this is all savory, and it does not hide that fact from you at all. The slow cooking really lets everything combine into one massive profile that feels like it's made up of many different flavors, instead of a lot of tastes fighting for which one gets to stand out the most. When this was popular, pork was leagues more affordable than it is today, and the fact that you could either make this into a stew or a casserole meant that a lot of families found a lot of use for it. It fit the tastes of almost every prolific area in the country, like California, the Pacific, or the South, and it did great at keeping everyone full. Cheese and potatoes are like a match made in heaven, and Grandma's cheesy, scalloped potatoes was straight out of any cheese lover's dream. So this casserole tastes even better than it looked, and let me tell you, it looked finger-licking delicious. The term scalloped comes from the French word escalope, which originally referred to thin slices of meat. However, in the case of scalloped potatoes, it refers to the thinly sliced potatoes used in the dish. Many grandmas used old-fashioned methods to make their cheesy scalloped potatoes, including hand-slicing the potatoes thinly, layering them with love, and cooking them slowly. Some even added secret ingredients they swear by, like a dash of nutmeg, a hint of garlic, or even a sprinkle of paprika for added flavor. The best part about this one was its crispy crust, and I'm sure you remember fighting all your siblings for the bigger chunk of it. This dish wasn't only tasty, but was also practical. It was a one-pot wonder, meaning it could be cooked and served in the same dish, making cleanup a breeze. I'm sure Grandma loved that. Of course, we can't have a conversation about Graham's iconic cookies without bringing up sugar cookies. Now, these biscuits really shaped all our childhoods, didn't they? I mean, they were the life of every party. Not only were they finger-licking delicious, but these were easy to whip up and could be customized according to any occasion. These baked treats have been around for centuries. They originated in the 1700s in Pennsylvania and started out as easy-to-bake treats with ingredients easily found in the pantry such as butter, sugar, eggs, and flour. Over the years, they've taken many colors and shapes and have even become a staple during the holiday season, especially Christmas. Don't forget to leave a few out for Santa. You never know, you might just end up with a few extra presents. You can't possibly have a conversation about forgotten grandma desserts and not bring up the infamous blackberry cobbler. This one was a summer favorite when blackberries were in season and at their peak of flavor. So, cobblers have their roots in early American history. Pioneers who traveled across the country had to make do with what they had, and traditional pies were difficult to bake on the road. Instead, they would cover the fruit with a layer of biscuit dough or batter and cook it in a Dutch oven, creating what we now know as a cobbler. The blackberries didn't only give the cobbler some flavor, but also packed it with antioxidants. This dessert was particularly famous in southern states and was a staple at many southern family gatherings, church picnics, and barbecues. Next up, we have the lobster thermidor. Just the name sounds like something out of a fancy restaurant, right? Well, because it was the creation of one. Lobster thermidor is a classic French dish named after the Thermidor month of the French Revolutionary calendar, which corresponds to July and August. The dish was first created in Paris in the late 19th century, specifically in 1894 at the restaurant Marie's. It began to gain popularity as one of the more luxurious seafood options and quickly became a showstopper at any table. Bye-bye caviar. While the classic recipe includes brandy and mustard, some modern variations incorporate additional ingredients like truffle oil or different types of cheese. Lobster thermidor was a dish reserved for special occasions, the kind of meal you'd expect at a high-end restaurant or a lavish dinner party. And as prices soared, this one became limited to the elite class only. Restaurants typically don't offer it anymore unless you're an A-list celebrity with access to secret menus.
Pescado la veracruzana.
Ah, sí. Red snapper Veracruz, right?
If you're looking to bring the vibrant flavors of Mexico... Moving on, let's talk about Grandma's shoe fly pie. Rings a bell? This Pennsylvania Dutch classic was a true taste of Americana. Grandma's shoe fly pie was a staple at family picnics back in the day. It was a pie that was both comforting and unique, with a flavor profile that was hard to forget. The secret to a great shoe fly pie was the molasses filling. It was a rich, sticky mixture of molasses, brown sugar, and spices. Shoe fly pie made a lot of buzz in the 19th century, with its name supposedly coming from the need to shoo away flies from the sweet molasses filling. Grandma's version of this pie was the highlight of the dinner table during the holidays and was often served with a cup of coffee. The best part? While this pie might sound intimidating, it was actually quite easy to make. The filling comes together in minutes, and the crumb topping is a breeze. Take it as a sign to whip this up and take it to your next potluck. Everyone's going to thank you. If we take a look at how porcupine meatballs made their claim to fame, then the answer is pretty easy, my friend. You take canned food, a sauce that gets simplified for everyday use, and budget-friendly, high-quality meatballs, and you have an easy winner in the eyes of the people. This dish costs nothing to make and requires the simplest of things from you. It's probably all stuff you already have in your home, to be honest. How often do we really find ourselves without any onions or rice? The sauce might be a bit tricky if you're new to it, but any canned tomato sauce would work too. All in all, it's extremely beginner-friendly. It caught on because between the casseroles, the meatloafs, and the pot roasts, people needed something different, but similar enough that it could work for them on a daily basis. What they ended up finding was porcupine meatballs, among many things, but the recipe is largely forgotten nowadays. You just don't get to see it being made much in households, probably because the prices are much higher than they used to be, and because there's been a massive rise in takeout culture on top of it all. Its golden days in the 1950s and 1970s are ancient history now. So, squash might not be our top pick on a regular day, but Grandma's squash casserole was so irresistible that we found ourselves going back for seconds, or even thirds. This casserole was a staple in Southern cuisine and was Gram's favorite way of sneaking nutrients into our dinner. Squash is rich in vitamins A and C, potassium and fiber, making it a wholesome choice. Now, this dish was typically famous in the summer when squash was available in abundance, but you could freeze the veggie and enjoy it all year round too. Squash casserole was highly customizable, meaning Gram could tweak it by adding cooked bacon, sausage, or even fresh herbs. The secret ingredient that gave this bad boy its unique taste was a dash of hot sauce, so next time you attempt making this dish for a potluck, don't forget the key ingredient. Thank me later! Speaking of holiday staples, the Spritz cookie was another favorite during the Noel days. So, Spritz cookies have Scandinavian roots, particularly in Sweden and Germany. The name Spritz comes from the German word spritzen, which means to squirt or to spray, referring to how the dough is pressed out of the cookie press. These were known for their distinctive shapes, which came from using a cookie press. Here's the fun part. These cookie presses weren't just ordinary cookie cutters. They were passed down from generation to generation and held special memories. I'm sure your grandma has a treasured box just waiting to be handed down to you if you let her know how much you miss these sweet treats. These biscuits were a little heavy on the pockets back in the day because of how much butter went into the dough, and it was typically flavored with vanilla or almond extract. Okay, so this next dessert's reputation speaks for itself. I'm talking about Snickerdoodle cookies. This bad boy was timeless. You could be 5 or you could be 45 and still enjoy the soft, chewy Snickerdoodles coated in cinnamon sugar, which gave them a sweet, slightly spicy flavor. And trust me, it was impossible to resist. Snickerdoodles are considered a classic American cookie, with a history that dates back to the late 1800s. 2 centuries later, they're still a fan favorite. Now, you could get these at many popular bakeries, but nothing beats what Granny whipped up in minutes back in the day. This biscuit was the star of Grandma's cookie jar, and always the first one to disappear. Straight to your plate, Red Snapper Veracruz is the perfect choice, or at least it was back in the day. This dish was incredibly popular in mid-20th century America, especially in areas with a strong Mexican influence. The best part? It looked just as good as it tasted. This dish was so famous across North America that it was often called the signature dish of the state of Veracruz. While Red Snapper is the traditional choice, the Veracruz-style sauce was also used with other types of fish or seafood, such as tilapia or shrimp, in some famous variations of the dish. This one has completely disappeared from menus in America, but if you'd still like a taste, a ticket to Mexico sounds like a plan. Ever wondered what kind of dish you'd see at a Michelin star restaurant in the 1950s and 1960s? The only right answer: this list wouldn't be complete without Grandma's baking powder biscuits. There's nothing quite like the smell of freshly baked biscuits, and Grandma's baking powder biscuits were better than those from any bakery. They were fluffy and buttery and disappeared in seconds. And since they were made with baking powder, these biscuits were a quick and easy way to get fresh homemade bread on the table. This cookie was more than Grandma's making something good out of the top of their heads. It was science. Buttermilk was the secret ingredient for tender biscuits. It reacted with the baking powder to create air pockets, giving the biscuits their rise. The recipe for these biscuits likely dates back to the late 19th century when baking powder became widely available and revolutionized home baking. These ones were best served with some homemade jam straight from Grandma's fridge. Ah, don't we all miss it? As far as everyday meals go, it gets pretty hard to outdo candied carrots if you're a middle-class home in the mid-1900s. As I'm sure many of you can relate to today as well, the little goblin in your brain that demands a sugar rush every other day for comfort is something humans throughout time have experienced. How did they get their fix? Well, you couldn't just get a caramel mocha frap from Starbucks like today, but you could take some carrots, boil them, and coat them in a glaze that was made from honey, maple syrup, brown sugar, and butter. Not really something that would suit the tastes of today, right? But don't knock it until you try it, because it actually did really well. Candied food was this entire niche genre of cooking back then that got popular. The whole glaze aspect was something people loved applying to every dish to see what sticks. These were a side dish that also worked for kids, so they got a lot of mileage out of family gatherings and dinner parties. But even besides that, it's still a great way to work some carrots into your diet. As far as the taste goes, they definitely hit home. It feels like any other treat you'd be eating, though when we think of candy today, we might be more used to hard and mushy textures like in hard licorice or sour candies. This was tender though, and it would melt in your mouth. Leftover turkey in the fridge? Consider it your lucky day because that used to call for Grandma's legendary turkey noodle casserole. This casserole made mornings after Thanksgiving something to look forward to. This was the go-to recipe for using up leftover turkey and noodles after Thanksgiving or Christmas. All Grandma had to do was mix in the ingredients and add a topping made from breadcrumbs, crushed crackers, or even fried onions. Like most of the casseroles on this list, this was also a one-dish wonder and didn't require much labor. And you know Gram used to be tired from making us a grand feast the night before, so this was an easy way to serve something delicious on the dining table without putting in too much effort. This was a kid-friendly meal that appealed to even the pickiest eaters. What's not to love about a creamy sauce and some noodles all drenched in cheese? Remember those refrigerator cookies where Gram had to chill the dough for hours before baking up a delicious batch just for us? Well, these icebox cookies were a great make-ahead treat. Grandma could prepare the dough days in advance, store it in the refrigerator or freezer, and then slice and bake fresh cookies whenever she needed them. This made them perfect for when she had unexpected guests over. The name icebox cookies comes from the practice of chilling the dough in the refrigerator before baking. This step helped the cookies maintain their shape and made them easier to slice from a log of dough, which gave them their classic round or oval shape. The best thing about these cookies was how versatile they were. The recipe could be customized however you like. Some grandmas had a go-to recipe that included various add-ins like chocolate chips, nuts, dried fruit, or different flavored doughs, such as lemon, cinnamon, or even nutty variations. Next up, we gave the rhubarb pie. This is another one of Grandma's treats that wasn't too sweet or heavy on the stomach. It was a springtime hit made with fresh rhubarb sugar and often a touch of cinnamon or nutmeg. Rhubarb grows abundantly in gardens, and this recipe was the perfect way to use it up and celebrate the flavors of the season. Remember when we'd wait all year long for spring to come just for a slice of this one? Well, some grandmas canned or froze the rhubarb to use throughout the year. Rhubarb is naturally quite tart and can be too sour to eat raw. In pies, it was typically paired with sugar to create a more palatable and balanced flavor. Grandmas often experimented with different amounts of sugar and other ingredients like strawberries to complement the tartness of rhubarb. There is halibut steaks with hollandaise. Hollandaise sauce is one of the 5 mother sauces in French cuisine, originating from the 17th century. It's made from the classic ingredients, egg yolks, butter, and lemon juice. This dish also came with many health benefits in each spoonful. Halibut is a lean fish that provides high-quality protein and essential nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and B vitamins. Now, the big question comes to mind: why did it fall off the tables? Well, you can say it was healthy, but just not healthy enough. There were concerns about the dietary cholesterol and fat intake in dishes with rich sauces like hollandaise, and people decided to steer clear of them for a while. The sad part is that we never found our way back to this delicious dinner. If you grew up in the Midwest, you might remember Grandma's cherry salad is a hard one to forget. This recipe might sound unusual, but trust me, it was a classic. This wasn't your average salad. It was a million times better and a hit at the kids' table. Think of a creamy concoction featuring canned cherries, marshmallows, and a dreamy, fluffy dressing. What's not to love? It was the kind of dish that was as much about the fun of eating it as it was about the taste. It especially made waves in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ohio, where cherry orchards were abundant. Cherry salad was a popular choice for potlucks and family gatherings in the mid-20th century. It came along with the trend of adding fruit to salads, making them more of a dessert-like treat. This salad was the ultimate crowd pleaser that always had everyone coming back for seconds. It's a dish that has mostly disappeared from modern menus, but still brings a smile to those who remember it. So you know how America and pulled pork go together like jam on toast, right? After all, it's something you can feed a whole crowd and have them feeling full and satisfied. It's a showstopper, but you can make a lot of easy things with it. Most dishes you can make and serve will have people asking you what your recipe is, but that's just how easy pulled pork is to work with. So, when I say this next sentence, hear it with an open mind. How do you feel about cherry cola pulled pork? Yeah, slow-cooked, barbecue-y, savory pulled pork left to simmer in a pool of cherry cola, barbecue sauce, and other seasonings. The first time I heard of this dish, I struggled just to imagine all of those flavors in one bite. Like, barbecue sauce is a dip, pulled pork is a main dish, and cherry cola is a drink. You're used to having all that separately, right? Despite that, since it was all made from things that were so readily available in most homes, and since it was right up the alley of home chefs in their slow cooking era, it took off in a major way. Especially in the South, where everything involved in this dish is something people were already having on a daily basis. The French also made a significant contribution to delicious casseroles with the easy shepherd's pie. It was a meaty casserole traditionally made with lamb meat. Shepherd's pie has its roots in British cuisine. The name shepherd's pie specifically refers to the use of lamb, while cottage pie is used when beef is the main ingredient. This one was an easy one to make as it didn't require hours of preparation. The dish became popular in the UK during the 19th century, particularly after the introduction of potatoes in the late 18th century. This one was used for meal prep, as it was great for making ahead and freezing. It was known as hachis parmentier in French cuisine, but different countries came up with their own version of the shepherd's pie. In Australia and New Zealand, it's often called cottage pie, and in some places the dish includes sweet potatoes or other unique toppings. If you had Scottish grandparents, there's a huge chance you grew up eating shortbread cookies. These originated in Scotland and date back to as far as the 12th century. Originally, they were a luxury treat reserved for special occasions like Christmas, weddings, and Hogmanay, the Scottish New Year. But Grandma's simplified version of the recipe found its way to many homes around the world, and it quickly became a special holiday favorite. So this cookie is made with just 3 basic ingredients: butter, sugar, and flour. The term shortbread comes from the word short, which refers to the high-fat content in the dough. This meant they weren't really the healthiest choice of dessert out there, but it was okay to cheat a little when it came to shortbread cookies on the kitchen counter. These biscuits were often cut into classic shapes like rounds, fingers, or wedges, known as petticoat tails in Scotland. Since we're on the topic of pies, cherry pie was another one of Grandma's culinary masterpieces. This was the kind of dessert that made any bad day 10 times better with just one bite. Traditionally, cherry pie was made with sour cherries rather than sweet cherries. Morello cherries were one of the most common kinds of cherry used, but other varieties such as the black cherry were also popular. So, cherry pie is considered one of the most iconic pies in America, second to only apple pie. There's a famous story about young George Washington chopping down a cherry tree and then confessing to it, saying, "I cannot tell a lie." Legend says this cemented the importance of cherry in American history and inspired our grandmas to add the fruit to their delicious desserts and meals. Cherry salad was another popular dessert back in the day. Fries is a popular snack or appetizer, especially in the spring when smelt was in season. But just in case you're new to this dish, smelt are small, oily fish that were once abundant in the Great Lakes, and frying them up was a simple and delicious way to enjoy them. In some states like Michigan, smelt fries were more than just a dish. They were part of local traditions and festivals. You could find them at food trucks and even concerts. They were the perfect finger food, crispy, salty, and satisfying. Unfortunately, they were replaced by other food choices that entered the market, such as salmon and codfish. I wish we had enough space on our plates for all of them.
A classic Scottish meal that will bring the coast of Scotland right to your kitchen.
Now let's go back to the roots with this next one. Grandma's Sweet Hubbard Squash Custard Pie was a unique twist on traditional pumpkin pie, featuring the sweet and nutty flavor of Hubbard squash instead. Whether inspired by a traditional farm recipe or a hearty harvest meal, this pie began as a humble yet beloved dish in early American kitchens. It combined the rich, nutty flavor of Hubbard squash with the creamy sweetness of custard, creating a tradition that warmed family tables for generations. It was a favorite during the fall season. Hubbard squash was a popular ingredient in many home kitchens due to its versatility and natural sweetness. Grandma's pie was a seasonal treat, often served during holiday dinners and special occasions. Grandmothers were truly ahead of their time with this one. Like cobbler? Then you need to hear about the wonderful blueberry ones everyone used to make in their crock-pots. It isn't really a secret that cobbler is an everyday dessert in most American households, and it's been that way for longer than either you or I have been around. It'll stay that way after everyone we know is gone too. Some things are just generational like that. Blueberry cobbler used to be made in crock-pots back then to really let it absorb the flavor. And since you could just leave the dessert to bask in the flavors on its own, people started making it so much more. After crock-pots went mainstream and most households had one, sales for lots of berries and fruits went up because of how easy it became to make desserts surrounding them. Blueberries definitely weren't an exception, and the best part was that you could make this at any time of the year, and it would still work. Like, you know how some people don't like having hot chocolate outside of winter? You'd never get any concerns like that with a blueberry cobbler. There was always someone ready to eat a whole plate. If we take a small intermission from the dessert side of things and step on over to some hearty, comforting, and homely soups, we'll find a golden recipe lost among the cookbooks of the 20th century that don't get to see the light of day anymore. Green bean casserole started out as a traditional Thanksgiving meal, but because of how much everyone loved it, it soon became a year-round delicacy. This one was also created as a creative way to market Campbell's cream of mushroom soup. When canned soups first hit the food aisle at grocery stores, many people were skeptical about them. Introducing new recipes was a way of encouraging people to add them to their daily meals, and Grandma really followed through with this one. The original recipe, known as the green bean bake, was developed by Dorcas Riley, a home economist at Campbell's. It combined green beans, cream of mushroom soup, and fried onions, and it was published in the company's recipe booklet. Our sweet old grandmas decided to make this one better by adding their own twists to the original recipe. Although traditionally rich and creamy, there were lighter versions of green bean casserole that used lower fat ingredients or alternative toppings to make it healthier. Here's Sweden's version of the classic grandma cookie. Thumbprint cookies, or hallongrotta, were jam-filled cookies that were all the rage in Scandinavian countries. The name hallongrotta translated to raspberry cave, which was a nod to the jam-filled center. So the standout trait of these cookies was the indent made using thumbs for the jam filling. This is where it got its name, thumbprint cookies. The indent was made by pressing a thumb or spoon into the dough before baking, and the little touch added a personal element to each cookie. These cookies were a hit amongst kids, not just because of their taste, but because of how fun it was to make them. It didn't feel like a chore at all and was more like a family activity. Oh, and if you ever found yourself wondering what gave these cookies their iconic golden finish, Grandma might have brushed the dough with an egg wash before baking. Okay, so this next one was a staple on Grandma's dinner table during the holidays. Yeah, I'm talking about the spice cake. Come on, there's no way you don't remember this bad boy. Spice cake had been a beloved dessert for centuries, with origins tracing back to medieval Europe. The use of spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves in cakes became popular during the 18th and 19th centuries after these ingredients were brought to America. Someone's grandma decided to add spices to an old-fashioned cake batter, and let's just say we're extremely grateful for it. This cake shaped many childhoods as its aroma marked the start of fall and holiday season. From Thanksgiving days to Christmas mornings, this one was always sitting in the kitchen for anyone who wanted a taste of the season. So Finnan haddie, or smoked haddock poached in milk in simpler words, was once a breakfast staple in New England. It's not an exaggeration to compare this to our favorite waffles because it was equally, if not more, popular. This dish has its roots in Scotland, where it was traditionally prepared by smoking haddock over peat fires, giving it a distinct, slightly sweet flavor. Finnan Haddie was a popular staple for Scottish sailors and fishermen due to its long shelf life. The smoking process helped preserve the fish, making it an essential food for long voyages and hard times. In America, it became especially popular in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and was often served with boiled potatoes or on toast for breakfast. The poaching in milk gave the fish a creamy texture, which made it stand out from the other seafood dishes in the market. Well, there's no replacing everyone's beloved sunny side up nowadays, so this delicacy is nowhere to be found, unless maybe you visit Scotland. The Depression era had its fair share of seafood recipes. All right, let's switch gears from sweet to savory. So this next dish might not be as complex as a Hubbard squash pie, but don't let that fool you. Grandma Maggio's spaghetti sauce is a timeless classic. Let's be honest, spaghetti is pretty much the national food of America. It's the answer to all our prayers when we can't decide what to eat after a busy day. Granny knew what she was doing when she whipped up this spaghetti sauce. This rich, savory sauce was the star of many family dinners, simmered for hours to develop deep, complex flavors. Made with ripe tomatoes, garlic, and a blend of herbs, it was a sauce that brought people together around the table, and still does in many parts of the country. The recipe for this sauce likely comes from Italian-American traditions, where family recipes were passed down through generations. Now I know store-bought sauces have taken over our pastas, but there's nothing quite like homemade goodness. This one remains a classic for those who remember the labor of love that went into making it. Pea and ham soup got its name because of how affordable it was. This is probably the cheapest thing on the list to make. Actually, it literally costs just a few cents. All you needed was ham and peas. You'd simmer them in the crock pot with diced ham and some vegetables like potatoes and celery, then slow cook it until the soup got thickened. You'd get this incredibly creamy, lovely soup that was just perfect for winter nights or after a long, exhausting weekend. Maybe you want to ease up on your stomach and eat something healthy for a change, but you still want some familiar flavors to keep you company. A soup like this would be right up your alley. It costs nothing, feels better than most things, and you can make it anytime. You could probably even take a nap and wake up to the scent of the soup slowly cooking, becoming the final product. You can't possibly reminisce about Grandma's forgotten casseroles without bringing up the ham and potato casserole. This one combined two classic comfort foods, ham and potatoes, and instantly became a favorite on the dining table. You know all those leftover ham that goes bad in your refrigerator after the holidays? Well, this recipe was a way to spice it up and turn it into something new, and of course, Grandma did it best. There was even a healthier version of the ham and potato casserole that was made using lean ham, low-fat dairy products, and extra vegetables to boost the nutritional content. Grandma used whatever potatoes she could find at the farmer's market, but this one could be made by a variety. Some recipes called for russets, while others used Yukon Gold or red potatoes, depending on your texture preference. So, Linzer cookies were another jam-filled classic, but these ones originated in Austria. Linzer cookies were named after the city of Linz in Austria. They were a smaller cookie version of the Linzer Torte, which was one of the oldest known cakes in the world, dating back to at least the 1600s. I mean, who doesn't love an easy-to-grab, bite-sized version of their favorite cake? The dough for Linzer cookies traditionally included ground nuts, usually almonds or hazelnuts, which gave the cookies their distinctive nutty flavor. Linzer cookies were famous for their window design. The top cookie had a small shape cut out, usually a heart, star, or circle, which allowed the colorful jam to peek through. This not only made these biscuits the most visually appealing dessert on the table, but also gave us a chance to see the sweet filling inside. Yeah, some of us out here aren't big fans of surprises. Making Linzer cookies was a labor-intensive process, but you know, Grandma always loved spending hours in the kitchen as long as it made us happy and filled our tummies. I think it's fair to say that apples were a crucial part of whipping up desserts back in the day. But hey, apple pie wasn't the only sweet treat we got out of this fruit. Remember Grandma's apple dumplings? These were made by wrapping a whole or sliced apple in dough and then baking it until golden brown. and Grandma's apple syrup topping was like cherry on top. This was a labor-intensive dessert, which is pretty much why it's associated with Grandma's kitchen. The process of peeling, coring, and stuffing the apples and then carefully wrapping them in dough was a true labor of love. This one was commonly enjoyed as a dessert, but no one judged you if you ate it as breakfast. I mean, pair it with a cup of coffee and your taste buds will thank you. And sardines on toast was the star of the show. What's not to love about a quick, inexpensive, and protein-packed meal? The Depression days were all about making do with whatever came by, and sardines were not only light on the pockets but were long-lasting as well. The simple dish involved placing sardines, often with a bit of mustard or tomato sauce, on a slice of toasted bread. It was a practical solution during tough times and filled everyone's tummies with minimal effort. Thankfully, the Depression era is way before us, and sardines aren't our first choice for a go-to snack anymore, thanks to all the delicious options in the food aisle. Who wants sardines on toast when you could have a classic peanut butter and jelly sandwich? If there's one thing we've learned so far, it's that no one did seafood dishes quite like the French. So Grandma's really said, "Revolution!" with this next one, because Hungarian nut rolls redefined what pastries could be. These delicious pastries were filled with a sweet nut mixture and rolled into a spiral shape, then baked until golden brown. Hungarian nut rolls have their origins in Eastern European baking traditions, where they were often made for special occasions and holidays. Word on the street says some grandma in Europe wasn't actually aiming for Hungarian nut rolls. She was, believe it or not, trying to make cinnamon rolls. But, as fate would have it, she grabbed the wrong jar, walnuts instead of cinnamon. Thank God for this beautiful mishap. The recipe has been passed down through generations, with each family adding their own twist. These rolls may not be as common today, but they still hold a special place in the hearts of those who grew up with them. Osso buco is something that's known for smoothness. The way the meat falls off of the bone, the saltiness of the gremolata, the freshness of that first bite, which is an experience that you have to savor all on its own. If you're like one of those people who loves to try out your local Italian-American cuisine, you'd be doing yourself one hell of an injustice by not ever trying this. The way this dish got popular was because while the dish was originally made only with veal, by the time it hit American soil, it was using substitutes like beef or pork shanks. This made the dish accessible for your everyday Joe who can't afford to spend a lot on vegetables because, bills. Plus, if you add some gremolata, which is a mix of lemon zest, garlic, and parsley, to the dish, then you get a pretty balanced set of flavors that bounce off of each other. This is one of the finest parts of Italian-American cuisine, and it got popular for being a wonderful family meal that can keep everyone content and full. Speaking of veggie casseroles, the cabbage roll casserole was another hit on the dinner table. Don't we all love some good old-fashioned cabbage rolls? Well, this recipe took the labor-intensive meal and turned it into something simpler while retaining all the delicious flavors. Now this casserole has its origins in Eastern European cuisine, where cabbage rolls are a staple. It was a combination of recipes found in countries like Poland, Russia, and Hungary. Cabbage casserole not only tasted delicious, but also provided many health benefits with every bite. Cabbage is a nutritious vegetable that's rich in vitamins C and K, fiber, and antioxidants. Delicious and healthy. What's more to ask? One thing that we all loved about Grandma's special cookies was how light they were on the stomach. Butter cookies are a great example. These were made with just a few simple ingredients: flour, sugar, butter, and sometimes a touch of vanilla or almond extract. But despite their simplicity, butter cookies were a timeless classic in Grandma's cookie jar. These biscuits are often associated with Denmark, where they are known as småkager. I'm sure you know Danish butter cookies are famous worldwide. Remember the iconic blue tins filled with butter cookies? I think our first real heartbreak was opening that tin, expecting sweet treats, only to find Mom's sewing supplies instead. Let me know in the comments if I got you there. These cookies have a very long shelf life because of their low moisture content, which makes them perfect gifts during the holidays. You and I both know this list would be incomplete without the mention of classic whoopie pies. Now, these come with an interesting origin story. Whoopie pies are believed to have originated in the northeastern United States, particularly in Pennsylvania Dutch country, or Maine. According to legend, when Amish women would bake these treats, their husbands or children would exclaim, "Whoopie!" upon finding them in their lunch pails. And let's be honest, we all did that little whoopie when we sighted this one in our grandma's fridge. So these were a perfect cross between a cake and a cookie. But despite their name, they were more like mini cakes than actual pies. These were the best on-the-go treats that you could just grab on your way out. Also, here's a fun fact. In 2011, the whoopie pie was named the official state treat of Maine. The Sole Veronique is the perfect example. Yeah, Sole Veronique was a classic French dish that captured the essence of mid-20th century American fine dining. It was named after French opera singer Veronique, which gave it a whole new level of sophistication. The dish is known for its rich and creamy sauce, but a touch of lemon juice is what makes or breaks this delicacy. Oh, and if you want it as authentic as possible, don't forget the addition of grapes. These grapes were often poached or sautéed and added to the sauce to give it a subtle sweetness. Now, this dish isn't easy to come by anymore, but you'll definitely find some good recipes if you dust off your grandma's cookbooks.
And it's very tasty.
When you think of timeless grandma recipes, old-fashioned apple pie is the first thing that comes to mind. Grandma's apple pie was the stuff of legends, with apples sourced from the local orchard and a recipe that's been passed down through generations. This sweet treat dates back to the early settlers in America, who brought with them the tradition of pie making. Grandma's version was often made with a lattice crust and seasoned with cinnamon and nutmeg, making it a comforting treat during the fall and holiday seasons. The secret to a great apple pie is the perfect blend of sweet and tart apples. Granny Smith apples are a popular choice for their tartness, but you can use your favorite variety. The spices, such as cinnamon and nutmeg, add depth of flavor. Now, most of us just go through the McDonald's drive-thru when we're craving apple pie, but let's be honest, the Mickey D's pie has gotten nothing on what sweet old grandma used to make in the kitchen. Despite what you might think about chicken cacciatore, it's actually not hard at all. This was renowned as a one-pot meal, basically, the kind of thing you only need to pay minimal attention to. Italian-American cuisine is yet again the star of the show this time. And the interest in food like this was something America really only went through during the post-war period and towards the 70s and 80s. There was this growing national interest in foreign cuisines from the world over. I'm talking the deepest reaches of Mexico and Spain to Italian classics like this one, which you'd normally never even think to fight in an American home. However, dishes like these work so well with the average American's palate that it's a wonder you don't see them. Chicken pieces that get browned and simmered with tomatoes, bell peppers, garlic, and sometimes even wine. Slow cooked until you get a rich, thick sauce and chicken that needs barely any seasoning because it's already oozing with flavor. Simple ingredients, a no-fuss cooking method, and a taste that works for every chicken fan. It's not hard to see how this dish got to where it is, and now, chicken cacciatore is something you regularly find at almost any meat-based restaurant. Way to come from humble beginnings, right? So if you've been following along until now, you can clearly see there's this big pattern with red meat and stews in the crockpot world. It seems like a lot of dishes tend to gravitate towards this format, so why is that? Eggplant Parmesan casserole is another Italian classic that became a favorite in the United States. Eggplant was often a challenge to serve to picky eaters, so Grandma got creative and found a way to sneak it into delicious dishes, which resulted in the creation of this hearty dish. In Italy, it's better known as Parmigiana and is a popular gourmet dish. The casserole is a more laid-back version of the delicacy, as you can enjoy the flavors of this classic Italian dish without all the work of frying each individual slice of eggplant. Don't get me wrong, Gram loved making us those labor-intensive meals, but even she deserved a break sometimes. And this casserole gave her the perfect opportunity to whip up something delicious without spending hours in the kitchen. Enough with the butter cookies. Let's switch gears to some chocolatey goodness for this next one. Remember the classic chocolate crinkle cookie, anyone? It's hard not to love a dessert when it comes with a rich chocolate flavor. These cookies got their crinkle effect by rolling the dough in powdered sugar before baking. As the cookies spread and rise in the oven, the powdered sugar cracks and creates the classic crinkle effect. So chocolate crinkle cookies gained popularity in the United States in the 1960s when cacao powder became readily available at grocery stores. No holiday cookie tray is complete without this one, and it's so good that even renowned pastry chef and TV personality Duff Goldman can't stop raving about it. If you're craving a good chocolate treat, it's time to whip these bad boys up. So, blondies are the butterscotch-flavored cousins of brownies and are also often called blonde brownies. Surprisingly, blondies actually predate brownies. Recipes for molasses-flavored bar cookies, which are considered early versions of blondies, appeared in cookbooks as far back as the late 19th century, before the more famous chocolate brownie took the spotlight. Grandmas often baked these when they wanted a break from chocolate treats. While brownies may have overshadowed blondies for a while, blondies have been making a comeback in recent years. They've become a trendy dessert at cafes and bakeries, where they're often topped off with gourmet ingredients like toffee bits, browned butter, or even matcha. Mention gefilte fish in front of your grandparents because this one will definitely ring a bell. Its name comes from the Yiddish word gefilte, meaning stuffed, reflecting its origins where fish was traditionally stuffed with a mixture of ground fish and other ingredients. So, what even is this dish, you may ask? Well, it's basically made from a blend of ground fish such as carp, pike, and whitefish, mixed with ingredients like onions, eggs, and matzo meal. This one was traditionally served as a chilled appetizer by Ashkenazi Jewish households and was popular on Shabbat and Jewish holidays such as Passover. Gefilte fish has a long history in Eastern European Jewish communities, where it was a way to stretch fish further and create a flavorful dish for festive occasions. However, this delicacy wasn't limited to Jewish communities. It was also popular with German Catholics during Lent, when it was forbidden to eat meat. If you take a stroll down any of the beaches on the East Coast, you'll still hear whispers. Grandma's date nut bread was the best way to sneak nutrition into a sweet treat. Come on. Grandmothers didn't just want us to fill our tummies with sugar, they wanted to make sure we were getting those nutrients in too, and that was pretty much the origin of the date nut bread. This moist and flavorful bread is a classic for a reason. Grandma's date nut bread was a staple in our household. It was perfect for breakfast, a snack, or even dessert. Packed with chopped dates and crunchy nuts, it had just the right amount of protein, fibers, and iron. It was often enjoyed with a smear of butter or cream cheese, adding to its indulgent appeal. Though it may not be as commonly made today, Grandma's date nut bread is a nostalgic reminder of simpler times and the joy of homemade treats. Things like bœuf bourguignon, otherwise known as a beef brisket, aren't any different. You get a traditional beef chuck that gets slow-cooked in red wine, beef broth, onions, and herbs, and you wait until the meat is so soft you barely even need teeth to pull it apart. This dish was one of the highlights of French cooking, which was normally associated with luxury dining but got modified for the everyday home, and I gotta say, I'm so glad somebody came along and did that modifying. I wouldn't know how to act without my weekly fix of beef briskets, especially with how well they make mushrooms stand out. A dish that works well with mushrooms is one you have to hold close to your heart, always. Nothing says an everyday meal like some soup, and nothing helps something survive being an everyday meal like having some ham in it. The turkey noodle casserole wasn't the only way of using up leftover turkey from the fridge. Turkey tetrazzini was another delicious dish you could make the morning after Thanksgiving. This casserole typically started out with a base of spaghetti, along with a creamy sauce that's usually made from a combination of broth, cream, and sometimes cream of mushroom soup and vegetables like peas, carrots, or celery. It was named after the Italian opera singer Luisa Tetrazzini, who was known for her performances in the early 20th century. The dish is believed to have been created in the early 20th century, coinciding with Tetrazzini's rise to fame. Many recipes included cheese such as Parmesan or cheddar, which made it kid-friendly. This was another great example of how Graham could make something so delicious out of leftovers that might have otherwise gone to waste. Now, let's talk about a healthier cookie: cowboy cookies. Don't you just love it when a dessert isn't only delicious but also healthy? Well, these Wild West cookies were made out of oats, chocolate chips, nuts, and sometimes coconut. As the name suggests, these bad boys originated in the American West and have a deep connection with Texas, where they were served at barbecues, gatherings, and local events. The first popular cowboy cookie recipe was featured in the Texas A&M University Aggie Cookbook, which is a well-known cookbook among Texas Aggies and fans of Texan cuisine. And if you're ever feeling lazy, there's even a commercial version of cowboy cookies known as Cowboy Cookie Mix that you can find in grocery stores. It doesn't really get better than this, does it? Coconut became a popular ingredient in the U.S. during the late 1800s, and coconut cream pie instantly became a cult classic. This one was really different than Grandma's usual desserts, as it brought a taste of topics to the table. The heart of this pastry was the coconut cream filling made with coconut milk or cream, sugar, eggs, and sometimes a bit of cornstarch to thicken. And no coconut pie was complete without a thick layer of whipped cream on top. Thankfully, my grandma was extra generous with the topping. Some grandmas liked putting their own spin on the dessert by adding a hint of vanilla or almond extract to the filling, or even pineapple for a piña colada-inspired twist. Sadly, today's store-bought versions don't even come close to what Gram used to make back in the day. About the baked bluefish. Think of some good old-fashioned baked bluefish with breadcrumb stuffing. Of course, people loved it. Now, bluefish's high-fat content gives it a unique taste and makes it the star of the show, but it's the same fat content that made people raise eyebrows about this fan-favorite delicacy. Don't get me wrong, bluefish is a good source of protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and essential vitamins like vitamin B12. But you gotta keep that fat content in check, right? The dish is often served with classic side dishes such as roasted vegetables, potatoes, or rice to make them a little healthier. But you know, it didn't do much, and it ended up disappearing from our dinner tables. Here's another Jewish and Scandinavian favorite. Now let's talk about Mima's milk pudding. This comforting dessert was a staple in many southern kitchens and offered a sweet finish to any meal. Made with just a few simple ingredients, milk, sugar, and a touch of vanilla, it's a classic example of how simple can be absolutely delicious. Milk pudding dates back to early American cuisine, where it was often enjoyed as a treat or a way to use up surplus milk. Grandmas decided to take it up a notch with a sprinkle of nutmeg or a dollop of whipped cream. Here's something you probably didn't know about this delicacy. Mima's milk pudding is a simpler, old-fashioned version of what we now know as rice pudding. Rice pudding is the fancier version. So if you ever crave something simple and good, milk pudding is where it's at. That was the thought process between the ham hock minestrone, which got so much goodwill with the people because it was one versatile soup. After the recession and the post-war period, there was this nationwide love for food that was practical and could work in many different ways. The population was too accustomed to rationing and making the best use out of everything, so even when times relaxed and the dust settled, with all this new developing technology like crockpots, people still couldn't get out of the habit. That's why things like this work so well. They take a simple format, even simpler ingredients, but give you a full team of flavors that you can write home about. This soup uses ham hock simmered with vegetables and beans. Then you can add pasta or rice, whichever you'd like more. Though traditionally most recipes call for the pasta instead. If something's going to be smoky flavor-wise, you just know it's going to do well in the South, and that's where this soup was made the most. The way you know most of these recipes have been forgotten is because you just don't hear dishes like that anymore. Not in the middle of this pita wrap or burrito bowl world. You might have never heard about this next one unless you grew up in Memphis, but trust me, it's worth knowing and tasting. So, Tennessee onions consisted of thick slices of sweet onions smothered in a creamy, cheesy sauce and baked until golden and bubbly. The key to making this one stand out from all the other casseroles on the table was the sweetness of the onions. Vidalia onions were often used because of their natural sweetness, but any sweet onion did the job. This wasn't necessarily the star of the dinner table. It was more of a side dish that complemented other main courses like grilled meats or fried chicken. Do you know what something peanut butter lovers love more than a classic peanut butter cookie? Peanut butter blossoms, of course. So what made them better? Well, it was definitely the signature Hershey's Kiss topping. This classic combination of peanut butter cookie and milk chocolate kiss made this cookie a fan favorite. The recipe for peanut butter blossoms is thought to have been created in the 1950s by a Hershey's employee to promote Hershey's Kisses and encourage people to incorporate milk chocolate in their desserts. In 1999, peanut butter blossoms were named the National Favorite Cookie by the American Cookie Association, which solidified its status as the classic American dessert. Peanut butter blossoms were famous throughout the year. From being a staple at holidays due to the Hershey's Kiss on top resembling a Christmas ornament to a hit at bake sales because of their appealing looks, peanut butter blossoms never disappoint. If you grew up in the South, I'm sure you're familiar with the hummingbird cake. Yeah, it'd be a crime if this one didn't strike a chord. So this was pretty much a good old cake with exciting tropical flavors of banana, pineapple, and pecans. Let's be honest, we all get a little bored of chocolatey desserts from time to time, so this one was a good break from the classics. NS. The cake's origins can be traced back to Jamaica, where it was originally known as the Dr. Bird cake. The name hummingbird cake came from the idea that the cake was so sweet and delicious that it would attract hummingbirds. I don't know about hummingbirds, but it had all my attention for sure. I remember begging Granny for this one. This one was a famous choice for weddings, and Grandma's involvement made it extra special for the big day. Herring and sour cream. Herring and sour cream was a staple in Scandinavian cuisine, especially in countries like Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. It was a common feature on smorgasbords, which is another name for Scandinavian buffets. The herring used in this dish is typically pickled before being mixed with the sour cream sauce, which makes it even better. It was traditionally served as a cold appetizer or side dish, but could also be used in other recipes, such as sandwiches or as a topping for baked potatoes, making it the best of both worlds. What more can you possibly ask for from a fish?
But you have to believe me, as you're eating these, you're not even going to feel those.
A product of 1950s convenience cooking was our beloved. Next on our list is Grandma McAndrews's Irish soda bread. Hear me out, this bread didn't actually have any soda pop. Yeah, steer clear of Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper's. The only soda you need here is baking soda. Made with just a few ingredients, flour, baking soda, buttermilk, and a touch of salt, it's a bread that's as straightforward as it is delicious. Irish soda bread has its origins in Ireland, where baking soda was used as a leavening agent instead of yeast. Grandma McAndrew's version was known for its slightly tangy flavor and crusty exterior, making it perfect for sopping up stews or enjoying with a pat of butter. This one looks just as good as it tastes. The classic cross on top of Irish soda bread symbolizes the Christian cross. It's a beautiful tradition that adds a touch of history to this delicious bread. Plus, Irish soda bread is incredibly versatile. Beyond the classic loaf, you can shape it into scones, muffins, or even pancakes. For example, just take this dish, sticky citrus chicken. Ever heard of something like that? I bet you haven't. Isn't it interesting to think about how just a few decades ago dishes like these were so common? This dish was a modernized take on glazed chicken, which I'm sure you know of. It just wanted to add a citrusy and tangy element to it instead, and that happened because of the mix of honey and soy sauce and citrus fruits, which made the glaze really memorable. Most glazes were either sweet or really smoky, so there wasn't much to go on for fans of the middle, the tangy, and the zesty. This dish was something that filled that void in so many people, because it was a great way to do something new with the same drumsticks and thighs you've always been used to. The best part of it was that you could get a different sauce depending on the fruit you used. Sometimes you could use oranges, but you'd get a different taste altogether if you used lime instead. That's why kids in particular loved this dish, because you could spin it so many different ways and still get an addictive result that works nutritionally too. Let's be honest, no one did casseroles quite like the Southerners, and their classic cornbread casserole spoke for itself. Cornbread has been a staple in many grandma's kitchens for generations. It's often passed down through family recipes, with each grandma adding her own unique twist. This is one of the most famous members of the casserole families and was a staple at family dinners and potlucks. The best part? Anyone could make it. Yes, it was that easy. You just had to mix the ingredients, pour them into a baking dish, and let the oven do the work. It was a great everyday dinner, especially for busy cooks looking for a fuss-free meal. You could also customize this casserole and experiment with different types of cheese. The best way to take a cookie up a notch is by adding raisins and nuts. I mean, Hermit cookies were a favorite for a reason. These biscuits have a long history that dates back to colonial America. They were popular during the 19th century and were known for their hearty ingredients and long shelf life, which made them a practical choice for early settlers and travelers. The name Hermit is believed to come from the idea that these cookies were ideal for solitary travelers or hermits who needed a durable, long-lasting snack. Graham used to make a big batch of these bad boys that used to last several weeks. Now, these cookies come with benefits in every bite. They were not only filling, but also a good source of energy. They were packed with raisins, nuts, and spices. They provided a quick and nourishing snack for long journeys or labor-intensive days. Different regions had their own versions of Hermit cookies. For example, in New England, they were more fruit-focused, while in other areas, nuts and spices took center stage. Do you remember going to the pumpkin patch with your grandparents back in the day? Well, my favorite part about those trips was the pumpkin pie Graham used to whip up afterward. This one was a seasonal favorite and the star of the dessert table at Thanksgiving. Now, this wasn't all the hype amongst kids, but the adults could never have enough of it. During the Great Depression, frozen pumpkin pie became popular because it was a practical way to preserve the harvest and provide a delicious treat throughout the year. But nothing beats a warm slice fresh from Grandma's oven. Beloved salmon loaf. Hear me out. Salmon is one of the most common seafood choices nowadays, and that's because of all the different ways you can cook it. But let's be honest, nothing beats a good old salmon loaf. It was a budget-friendly dish made with canned salmon, breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings. It was a practical and economical choice for families looking to stretch their food budget during post-war times. Salmon loaf became all the rage in American cuisine during the mid-20th century, particularly in the 1950s and 1960s. It was a common feature in household cookbooks and church cookbooks from that era. Plus, salmon loaf is a good source of protein and omega-3 fatty acids thanks to the salmon. This made it a nutritious option that contributed to a balanced diet. When money was extremely tight during the mid-20th century, mackerel. If old-fashioned apple pie had one competitor back in the day, it was definitely Great-Grandma's peach cobbler. This classic dessert featured a sweet, juicy peach filling topped with a buttery, biscuit-like crust. Peach cobbler has its roots in the American South, where fresh peaches are abundant during the summer months. Great-Grandma's recipe was cherished for its perfect balance of sweet and tart flavors, with the cobbler topping baked to a golden brown perfection. Served warm with a scoop of vanilla ice cream, it was the ultimate comfort food. It was also an item you'd see everywhere in bakeries. Well, not anymore though, because it has fallen out of favor and replaced with more sophisticated desserts like peach crumble. Nothing tastes like Grandma's cooking though, not even the crumble cookies. Beef rendang was a highlight of New York dining. You could go to any neighborhood in Queens that was known for its beef and they would have rendang available, but it wasn't just New York. It was San Francisco and Los Angeles too, and in the former there was the Tenderloin district where meat-based dishes reigned supreme. The 1970s were the peak of beef rendang, and that's because it was around then that it got easy enough to make at home. People could enjoy it without going to a restaurant, thanks to slow cookers. Beef briskets were used to make rendang, but the magic was actually in this spice paste, which consisted of lemongrass, ginger, garlic, chilies, and turmeric. It sounds like a lot, but it's the genuine article, and it's bound to knock you out of the park no matter what dish you apply it to. Rendang is full of warm flavors, and it's as savory gets, plus the caramelized coating on the beef is really the cherry on top. It's usually served with rice, so if you ever feel like eating something out of an 80s animation, you can make some rendang. It comes closer than enough. Speaking of Los Angeles, it was actually one of the first few places in America that started trying out curries from different cuisines and the subcontinent. Speaking of cheese, does anyone here remember the infamous cheesy broccoli rice casserole? I'm sure you have childhood memories of running away from this one because of the broccoli. Yeah, wasn't broccoli everyone's biggest enemy growing up? Well, this casserole made you hate the green veggie a little less. The cheese topping was used to hide the greens in the dish and trick kids into eating this bad boy without making any fuss. You had to get your nutrients in one way or another, and this casserole made it 10 times better. Broccoli is packed with nutrients like vitamins C and K, fiber, and antioxidants. This casserole turns the nutritious vegetable into a kid-friendly dish that the whole family can enjoy. So, raspberry bars took classic shortbread cookies and gave them a delicious, sweet twist. The best part? Many grandmas used homemade raspberry jam or preserves for this recipe. This was a summer treat often baked when raspberries were at their ripest. Here's the thing. Raspberries are a fruit you can never go wrong with. It's a favorite across all ages, and even picky eaters who usually steer clear of fruit can't resist a delicious raspberry dessert. These treats were often found in coffee shops and bakeries, where they were enjoyed with a cup of coffee or tea. But let's be honest, no one did these raspberry bars justice quite like Grandma. Each Gram had her own version of this recipe with a personal twist, such as adding lemon zest to the filling or incorporating nuts into the crust. Let's have a full circle moment by making our way back to another apple dessert. I'm talking about the apple pandowdy. This was a variation of the classic apple pie. The name pandowdy comes from an old-fashioned word dowdy, which means shabby or unkempt. This referred to the pie's rustic appearance, where the crust often fell apart and the filling spilled over. Grandmas have been passing down recipes for this one since the 19th century, but somehow it is finally getting lost in the shuffle of modern recipes. Patties were what people ate to get by and satisfy their taste buds. Canned mackerel was an affordable and nutritious option. The patties were made by mixing canned mackerel with breadcrumbs, eggs, and spices, all of which were basic ingredients you could easily find at home. Mackerel patties were enjoyed in different culinary traditions across the globe. They can be found in recipes from various countries, including Scandinavian, British, and Asian cuisines, each with its own unique twist on the dish. And you know when you pray for a meal to have leftovers as potlucks? These bad boys were that kind of snack. Leftovers could be used in sandwiches, served with a salad, or even crumbled over pasta. The options were endless. Before theater popcorn became a favorite, Grandma's caramel popcorn balls were all we had. And the best part? They didn't cost a fortune. These sweet, sticky treats were a favorite for movie nights and holiday parties. Made with freshly popped popcorn coated in a rich caramel sauce, they were as fun to make as they were to eat. Caramel popcorn balls became popular in the mid-20th century as a playful snack. Of course, grandmas take things to new heights, so her version was shaped into balls and sometimes rolled in additional toppings like nuts or sprinkles. These treats were a hit with kids and adults alike. While they might not be as common today, they still bring a smile to anyone who remembers the fun of making and enjoying them. One of those was green chicken curry, which was a bit dampened to suit the average Caucasian tastes, but retained most of its flavor nonetheless. You can't knock that out of curries unless you want to make a plain gravy and call it a curry. The green chicken curry was something that every household in the 20th century, especially towards the tail end, was trying out. One of the cuisines that was on the agenda for America's global food tour was Southeast Asian cuisine, particularly the flavors of India, where stuff like coconut milk curries is pretty popular. Besides the milk, this used your typical subcontinental spices like turmeric, green chilies, garlic, and eggplants. I might make it sound like this was a food moment specific to LA, but it was also pretty popular in Elmhurst in Queens, where a lot of restaurants focusing on Thai and Southeast Asian cooking were popping up. You could say this curry walked so that the others today could run, because it was one of the first trendsetters. Or, put another way, America's first step into Southeast Asian food. It's 2024, and I'm sure none of you are strangers to the concept of gut health. We have the privilege of having lots of food science and research about this stuff coming out to support these claims and give us a better idea of what to eat and the impact of it all, but back then, people really just had feelings to go off of. The feeling of being refreshed, the feeling of waking up and feeling powerful, charged, clearer, and less bloated. Now, let's hit pause on the hearty casseroles and turn our attention to a timeless classic, chicken pot pie. The dish became especially popular in the US during the mid-20th century with the rise of frozen meals. Brands like Stouffer's helped bring chicken pot pie into the frozen food aisle, and it soon became a favorite. I'm sure you already know, but it's a type of meat pie with a top pie crust consisting of flaky pastry. Different regions have their own takes on chicken pot pie. For example, in the southern US, it might feature a biscuit topping instead of a traditional pie crust, while other regions might use different seasonings or ingredients. This delicacy isn't only famous on menus. Chicken pot pie has made its way into literature and pop culture. For instance, it's featured in various novels, movies, and TV shows as a symbol of home and comfort. While we're on the topic of cookie bars, the 7-layer bar was another one of Graham's special treats. These were also known as the magic bars because of their magical ability to combine simple ingredients into a delicious, gooey treat. These cookie bars were known for their distinctive 7 layers of ingredients. Typically, these layers included a graham cracker crust, butter, sweetened condensed milk, chocolate chips, butterscotch chips, nuts, and sometimes coconut. These cookies started making buzz in the 1960s and 1970s when they were featured in many home kitchens and church cookbooks. Even though our sweet grandmas came through at perfecting this dessert, its popularity was partly driven by promotional recipes from brands like Eagle Brand and Hershey's. Okay, so last but certainly not the least, we have Brown Betty. Does anyone remember this one? It was pretty much a baked fruit pudding that combined layers of spiced fruit and buttered breadcrumbs or crumbled bread. The most common version of Brown Betty used apples, but the recipe also included other fruits like pears or berries, depending on whatever was in season. The best part? Each grandma had their own way of making this one true to themselves, whether it was a secret blend of spices or a unique fruit combo. So, baked haddock with cheese sauce was the go-to choice for those looking to impress at family gatherings. In the 1960s, adding cheese sauce became a popular way of switching up classic dishes, and baked haddock was a product of this trend. Now, the idea of pairing cheese with fish isn't as unusual as it sounds. In fact, it was finger-licking delicious and had everyone in a chokehold for a decade. During the rise of frozen foods, baked haddock with cheese sauce was even featured in frozen meal options, making it an easy-to-prepare dish for busy people. In some variations, the cheese sauce was elevated with ingredients like white wine or Dijon mustard, adding a gourmet touch to the otherwise simple dish.
And that is saumonier.
Let's have a full circle moment with another French classic. Okay, this one is like a warm hug from the past. Remember Grandma's classic meatloaf? This savory dish was a family dinner favorite, known for its comforting flavors and satisfying texture. Meatloaf has been a staple of American cuisine since the early 20th century, offering a budget-friendly way to feed a family. Grandma's recipe was particularly loved for its moist interior and flavorful crust, often served with mashed potatoes and vegetables. It started out as a way to use up leftover meat scraps, but became a cultural icon of comfort food. All of that has to do with good gut health, and one of the best ways to take care of yours was with gut-healing chicken soup. From Colorado to Portland, Oregon, Brooklyn, and New York, it was so common to always have a bowl of this soup on the ready. It was a sign of the times. America was becoming aware of its growing obesity issues thanks to fast food culture, diners popping up everywhere, and a generational habit of greasy fried foods, which definitely hit home and feel like the peak of comfort but can never really help you in life. You simmer chicken, most times with the bone in as well, and then make this nutrient-rich broth with herbs and apple cider vinegar. All in all, it's a tasty dish that also makes sure you live easier and longer, so what's not to love here? This next one remains a favorite at the holiday dinner table. I'm talking about the cheesy hash brown casserole. This dish is also known as funeral potatoes because it is commonly served as a side dish during traditional after-funeral dinners. However, it is also popular at potlucks and other social gatherings, sometimes under different names. The dish usually consists of hash browns or cubed potatoes, cheese, onions, cream soup or a cream sauce, sour cream, and a topping of butter with cornflakes or crushed potato chips. It typically uses frozen hash browns, which makes the preparation quick and easy. While it was often served as a side dish, Cheesy hash brown casserole was also enjoyed for breakfast or brunch. Now, that's a breakfast I'd never skip. Moreover, this dinner meal is so famous that during the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, one of the souvenir food pins featured this casserole. So, Grandma's rum balls were a sweet escape for adults from classic grandma cookies. This no-bake treat, made from crushed cookies, cocoa, and rum, was not only easy to whip up, but also the perfect way to incorporate alcohol into desserts. There were many variations that used different types of alcohol, such as bourbon, brandy, or even liqueurs. The concept of combining crushed cookies with alcohol dates back to old-fashioned European recipes, where similar treats were enjoyed during celebrations. Rum balls have become a popular adaptation of this tradition in American holiday baking. Sole meunière. Sole meunière was a French fish dish consisting of sole, floured and fried, and served with hot melted butter, lemon juice, and parsley. Many recipes specified Dover sole, but the technique could be used with other flatfish. Its name translates to miller's wife style, referencing the traditional method of preparing the fish with flour, which was thought to be inspired by millers' wives who cooked meals with simple, available ingredients. As fancy as the name may sound, this dish is known for its simplicity and is easy to whip up if you've got the right ingredients. Last but not least, let's spice things up with a Southern classic that packs a punch. So this next one was my personal favorite growing up. I'm talking about Granny's Spice Cookies. These cookies were a favorite during the holiday season, featuring a blend of warm spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. They were known for their aromatic scent and rich, spicy flavor. Pairing them with a warm cup of hot chocolate or chai tea was like adding the cherry on top. Spice cookies have a long history, dating back to medieval Europe where spices were used to enhance baked goods. Now, you don't really see them at bakeries or stores anymore, but baking spice cookies is the perfect Friday night activity if you decide to stay in. Let's head on over to mulligatawny soup for a second since we're discussing soups anyway. This is another example of America dipping its fingers into the flavors of the subcontinent because this is a dish right from the cookbooks of India. It actually became popular during the colonial period of the British, and that's how it first spread to America. Places like Jackson Heights or Berkeley are places loaded with Indian and British communities, street food stalls, and restaurants, so you can always smell mulligatawny soup around the corner. It's aromatic after all, since you have all those curry spices and apple sweetness being put to work. Also, between you and me, anything with coconut milk gives off a scent that really gets around a whole city block. The reason home cooks with crock pots started adapting it into their weekly routine was because despite it being a soup, it's a bit like a stew too, since it's made with a chicken or lamb base. The cream at the end that you add gives it more of a stew-like feeling too, and it's definitely something that American homes that live next to subcontinental communities got used to making. It's a little sad that something so good and tasty has been forgotten though, but here's hoping we see an eventual comeback one of these days. Soups and curries not to your liking? Of course, we saved the best one for last. You could never go wrong with a good old classic baked macaroni and cheese. Whether you're 5 or 45, I'm sure you're a fan of this casserole. The dish is believed to have originated from Italy, where pasta and cheese were combined as early as the 13th century. However, the baked version we know today became popular in the United States, particularly in the southern and midwestern regions. The classic recipe calls for cheddar cheese, but you can mix different cheeses like Gruyere, Parmesan, or mozzarella to take it up a notch. Many schools throughout the U.S. offer it as a lunch option because who doesn't like some good old mac and cheese? Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, was a big fan of macaroni and cheese. He's the one who brought the recipe back to the U.S. from his travels in Europe. Plus, it's even better in the form of a baked casserole. Last but not least, we have Grandma's classic lemon bars. Similar to raspberry bars, this was another twist to the classic shortbread cookies, but this time with a zesty flavor instead of a sweet one. Lemon bars were known for their layered structure. They typically have a buttery, crumbly crust and a smooth, custard-like lemon filling on top. The lemon bar recipe became popular in American kitchens in the mid-20th century, around the time when many traditional recipes were passed down from mothers and grandmothers. Grandma's lemon bars is still a nostalgic link to this era of baking. Many families have their own special variations of this recipe passed down like heirlooms. Lemon bars have made many appearances in pop culture, including in TV shows and movies. For instance, they were mentioned in the TV show Friends, where Monica's famous lemon bars are a key plot point in a holiday episode. Deviled crab. So, deviled crab croquettes originated in Tampa, Florida, where they were developed in the Spanish, Cuban, and Italian immigrant communities of Ybor City. It was typically served for lunch or as a snack and was meant to be eaten with one hand. Deviled crabs were somewhat similar to boardwalk-style Maryland crab cakes. It was the go-to treat when you craved something that packed both flavor and flair. The deviled part of the name refers to its zesty, spicy nature, and, historically, deviled just meant a dish with a bit of heat. It was once a way to make crab meat go further on a budget while keeping the gourmet element of it. Some recipes used fancy spices or different types of crab to elevate the dish to a whole new level. Last, but certainly not least, let's talk about old-fashioned peanut brittle. The recipe is a simple yet delicious example of old-fashioned candy making, requiring precision and patience that only grandmothers have. This crunchy, sweet treat was a holiday favorite, made by boiling sugar and corn syrup until it reached the perfect crack stage, then mixing in roasted peanuts. Yeah, I'll leave that to Granny. Grandma's peanut brittle was particularly loved for its crisp, brittle texture and the generous amount of peanuts that added a satisfying crunch. It's a classic candy that's still enjoyed today, but Grandma's version remains a cherished memory for many who remember the joy of homemade treats. Let's head to the Indonesian side of things, where we can find popular recipes like satay chicken, which used to be headliners for most cookbooks back in the day. Los Angeles has this area known as Thai Town, and San Francisco also has its own Chinatown. I bring these places up because they acted as footholds for dishes and cuisines like these to make a name for themselves and spread to the wider audience in America. Most of the time, these dishes did manage to gain a niche following. But that was the problem. It only ever stayed niche because it never lasted long enough to break into the mainstream. Stuff like this couldn't keep up with the trends of the country, whether because it wasn't accessible enough, like, for example, if you wanted satay chicken, was it really worth it to get up and go all the way to Thai Town from another part of the city? That's why slow cookers were so nice to have around when they eventually did become mass-produced. Satay chicken is usually grilled, but it can be slow-cooked and left to marinate in a sauce made of turmeric, coriander, and lemongrass, as well as chili paste. If you really want to keep it a touch more American, you can always grill it further after the slow cooking since it will be served on skewers, but the dish works great even if you just cook it in a crock pot. And it's a great way to switch up Meatloaf Mondays when the whole family isn't giving the most excitable reaction to that idea. Orange gelatin soufflé. Cups brought a cheerful glow to every picnic spread. Instant pudding was whipped together with gelatin and a splash of fresh orange juice until it became light and airy. The mixture was poured into individual cups and chilled until softly set, forming a dessert that looked like a true soufflé, but required no oven at all. When served, the cups revealed a pale orange hue and a delicate citrus scent that lifted spirits on even the warmest days. Topped with a dollop of lightly sweetened whipped cream, they offered a smooth, creamy bite that melted instantly on the tongue. Churchgoers admired how quickly these treats could be prepared while still looking fancy enough for a special gathering. Children loved the bright color and gentle wobble that made each spoonful fun, while adults found the flavor refreshingly light after a plateful of savory dishes. This dessert proved that with a few pantry staples and a bit of creativity, even the simplest recipe could bring joy to a crowd gathered in faith and friendship. Shrimp and grits. Quick Bowl delivered coastal comfort with pantry convenience, turning pre-cooked shrimp and instant grits into a 10-minute feast. Water boiled while butter melted in a skillet, where garlic and a pinch of paprika released a smoky aroma. The shrimp, already cooked and cleaned, were tossed in the sizzling butter until warmed through and lightly seasoned with lemon juice. Instant grits whisked in another pot thickened in minutes, creamy and soft with a touch of salt. The hot grits were spooned into bowls and topped with the buttery shrimp and their flavorful drippings. A sprinkle of chopped green onions or parsley added a fresh finish. Despite the short cooking time, the dish tasted like a slow weekend brunch by the shore. Families loved how it brought a touch of luxury to a busy weeknight, proving that quick meals could still feel special and deeply satisfying when simple ingredients were treated with care and attention. Spinach and egg sandwich combined earthy greens with satisfying protein by mixing chopped cooked spinach and diced hard-boiled eggs in a mustard dressing that tied everything together. This nourishing blend offered a mellow bite with a subtle tang, perfect for quick lunches or light suppers. Families embraced it during the rationing years when eggs and garden spinach were affordable staples that delivered essential nutrients without great cost. The sandwich traveled well wrapped in wax paper and remained tasty at room temperature, making it ideal for workers and school children alike. A touch of black pepper or grated onion could be added for extra zest, but many preferred the pure, straightforward flavors that defined home cooking of the 1940s, though modern cafes rarely feature it. The spinach and egg sandwich reflects an era when simple, wholesome ingredients came together to create meals that were as practical as they were flavorful, offering a lesson in timeless kitchen economy. Water chestnut bacon wraps brought a surprising crunch to the picnic table. Whole canned water chestnuts were drained and patted dry, then wrapped in strips of smoky bacon secured with wooden toothpicks. Each bundle was brushed with a light glaze of brown sugar and soy sauce before being broiled until the bacon turned crisp and caramelized. The result was a savory sweet bite with a satisfying snap at the center. These little morsels were perfect finger food, disappearing quickly from platters as children and adults alike reached for seconds. They traveled well and could be served warm or at room temperature, making them ideal for outdoor gatherings where timing was unpredictable. Their mix of textures and flavors delighted guests who might not have expected such a modern-tasting treat at a church picnic. The recipe showed how 1960s cooks blended pantry staples with global influences, turning simple ingredients into something exciting and memorable that encouraged conversation and friendly competition for the last piece. Apple and sharp cheddar sandwich showcased the perfect marriage of sweet fruit and strong cheese, a favorite in New England, where crisp autumn apples were plentiful cooks, sliced tart apples thinly, and layered them with aged cheddar between slices of toasted rye bread. The mild heat of the toast softened the cheese slightly, allowing it to mingle with the juice of the apple for a balanced bite. This sandwich was a lunchtime staple for farmers who needed a meal that traveled well and stayed fresh during long days in the field. Children carried it to school, wrapped in wax paper, while parents enjoyed it with a hot cup of coffee at midday. Its popularity spread beyond the Northeast during the 1950s, when supermarkets made sharp cheddar more widely available even today. The combination of sharp, savory cheese and crisp, sweet apple stands out as a timeless example of how simple regional ingredients can create a sandwich that feels both rustic and refined without any unnecessary extras. Ham and cheese biscuit sandwiches turned leftovers into a satisfying handheld meal that tasted like a weekend treat even on the busiest night. Flaky biscuits baked from a can or quickly mixed from scratch rose high in the oven while slices of baked ham warmed in a skillet. As soon as the biscuits were golden, they were split open and layered with the savory ham and slices of sharp cheddar or mild American cheese. A few minutes back in the warm oven melted the cheese into a gooey blanket that glued everything together. The salty ham, buttery biscuit, and rich cheese made a perfect combination that required no side dish and no long wait. For families coming home late, this sandwich was both supper and comfort, a way to turn yesterday's roast into tonight's fast feast. Children grabbed them hot from the tray, and the memory of that warm bite remains an echo of efficiency and home-style pleasure. Hot slaw. Sandwich turned leftover cabbage into a warm and hearty meal that fit perfectly with the frugal habits of the Great Depression. Families would shred cabbage, onions, and carrots, then cook them down with vinegar, sugar, and a hint of mustard until the mixture became tender and tangy. This hot slaw was piled generously onto buttered buns or thick slices of bread, making a filling dinner when meat was out of reach. The heat of the slaw softened the bread slightly, creating a comforting texture that felt indulgent. Despite its simple ingredients, diners and boarding houses across the Midwest served it as a reliable daily special, While home cooks appreciated how it stretched a small garden harvest into a satisfying supper, its aroma of sweet and sour cabbage would fill the kitchen and invite everyone to the table long after those lean years ended. The memory of that steaming sandwich lingered as proof that thrift and taste can live side by side. Savory banana croquettes surprised picnic guests with a mix of gentle sweetness and light savory notes that turned a humble fruit into something remarkable. Ripe bananas were mashed with a pinch of salt and black pepper, then blended with fresh breadcrumbs and a spoonful of minced onion for a subtle bite. Small ovals were formed by hand, rolled in more crumbs, and fried in a shallow skillet until each croquette turned golden and crisp. The coating stayed delicately crunchy while the center remained soft and naturally sweet, a contrast that paired beautifully with roasted meats or a spoonful of spicy relish. Served warm on simple plates, these croquettes invited conversation as everyone tried to guess the unexpected ingredient hidden within. They proved that a common fruit could shine as a savory dish when seasoned with care, showing the creativity of church cooks who were never afraid to mix the familiar with the surprising to feed a joyful crowd. Peach and cottage cheese sandwich captured the cheerful sweetness of summer with canned peaches mashed gently into creamy cottage cheese for a filling that was both refreshing and satisfying. This mixture was spooned onto soft white bread, sometimes chilled beforehand for extra coolness. On hot days, the mild tang of the cottage cheese balanced the syrupy fruit, creating a flavor that felt indulgent without being heavy. Families discovered this recipe during the 1940s when canned fruit became a pantry staple and cottage cheese was celebrated for its protein content, making the sandwich both economical and nourishing. It was especially popular for picnics and garden lunches because it traveled well and stayed pleasant even without refrigeration. The peach and cottage cheese sandwich remains a sunny reminder of how simple ingredients could brighten a table and bring a taste of warm weather to any meal year-round. Country ham and red-eye gravy brought a bold, salty kick to the end of a long day, drawing on traditions that went back generations. Thin slices of country ham hit a hot skillet and sizzled until their edges crisped and their smoky scent filled the kitchen. Once the meat was removed, strong black coffee was poured into the pan to deglaze the savory bits, blending with a splash of water and a touch of butter to create the dark, rich gravy that gave the dish its name. The result was a sauce both bitter and savory, perfect for spooning over the ham or soaking into warm biscuits. In less than 15 minutes, the table held a meal that tasted slow, cooked, and soulful. Working families appreciated the speed while still honoring a Southern classic, and the sharp aroma of coffee and ham became a sign that dinner was ready. Each bite balanced salt, smoke, and a subtle bitterness, a reminder of farmhouse suppers where nothing was wasted and flavor came from skill and tradition rather than expensive ingredients. Buttermilk and cornflake smoothie surprised everyone with its creamy tang and subtle crunch, a quick breakfast drink that traveled easily to an early morning picnic. Tangy buttermilk was poured into a tall glass blender with a drizzle of honey, a pinch of nutmeg, and a handful of crisp cornflakes. As the blade spun, the cereal softened slightly, yet left tiny flecks that gave each sip a playful texture. Some cooks added ripe banana or a splash of vanilla for extra body, while others kept it plain to let the buttermilk shine. Served in chilled mason jars, the smoothie offered a nourishing start that felt like a cross between a milkshake and a classic Southern cereal bowl. Children delighted in the gentle sweetness and the faint crunch that lingered after every gulp. It was a clever way to stretch pantry staples and make something special when time was short and the churchyard was already filling with song. Ham and pickle relish sandwich delivered a zesty twist to leftover ham by grinding it fine and mixing it with sweet pickle relish and a dab of mustard until the filling became a tangy spread that woke up any slice of bread. It was a thrifty recipe that turned holiday leftovers into weekday lunches, stretching every bit of meat during the lean years of the 1940s. Community cookbooks praised it for its bold flavor and economical use of ingredients. Families enjoyed the bright contrast of salty ham and sweet relish, while the mustard added a gentle heat that cut through the richness. It traveled well wrapped in wax paper for school or factory lunches, and stayed moist without refrigeration, making it a favorite of workers and picnickers alike. As the years passed, delicatessens shifted toward heavier cured meats, and the humble ham and pickle relish sandwich faded from menus, but its lively balance of sweet, sour, and savory still deserves a modern revival. Skillet hot dogs with onions and peppers brought the flavor of a street cart into the kitchen without the need for a grill. Hot dogs were scored and browned in a cast iron pan, while sliced onions and bell peppers sautéed beside them in a little butter and salt. The vegetables softened and caramelized, releasing a sweetness that mingled with the smoky scent of the searing meat. Split rolls were toasted directly in the same pan to catch every bit of flavor. In less than 10 minutes, the hot dogs were nestled into the warm bread and piled high with the pepper and onion mixture, a quick dinner that felt indulgent and hearty. Families loved the one-pan cleanup and the way the dish fed a group with minimal effort. Each bite carried the taste of summer fairs and city sidewalks, proving that even a humble hot dog can become a meal worth remembering when time is short and hunger is strong. Which budget recipe are you trying first? Share your favorite money-saving meals in the comments. Hit like and subscribe for more vintage secrets that keep your wallet full and your family fed.